Hey folks, welcome back to another Espresso Deck Shorts, and today we're going to be doing some latte art. In particular, I'm going to be doing some Rosettas. A couple things to go over before we start. I got my milk pitcher here. Now this one has a bit of a sharper spout. Some of them have more rounded spout, that's totally fine. Just use whichever one that you use most often at home, right? Because you want to get comfortable with the type of spout that you have at home. And you can pour good latte art on both. This one has the measurements on the inside. Again, don't really need it. Usually you kind of just know. But also we're using bowl cups today. So that's that kind of latte style mug. You want that big surface area so you have a big canvas to draw your art on, whereas a regular sort of diner mug just won't give you that. And we're also using whole milk. You can use a dairy alternative if you want. Whole milk will give you the best steaming performance, but things like oat milk or soy milk, specifically the barista versions of both those milk alternatives, will give you a really good shot at having like a really nice textured foam, but I find it just tends to be a little thicker, so it might be a little harder to get some really fine detailed definition when you're pouring the latte art. It just tends to foam up a little bit more than you want. But oat milk, I would say, out of all the dairy alternatives, oat milk, especially the barista versions of oat milk, like Earth's Own Barista Edition or Oatly, are all good. So we're gonna get some milk in here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and steam this and get some shots, and I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Got my steamed milk. I got my espresso. And you want that kind of wet paint texture when you're swirling the milk. You don't want any large bubbles. If you have bubbles, just give it a tap and a swirl on the counter so it can pop some of those large bubbles. You get a silkier foam, and you also want to keep it moving. Now, it's hard to do this slow, so hopefully our editor is able to slow it down at least somewhat, because you just really can't pour latte art slow. It's because of the milk and the foam and how it comes out of the pitcher. You got to do it fast. So here we go. We're gonna start mixing about a pencil-shaped thickness, and you're gonna do that until about halfway, 2/3 up the cup, and then you're gonna get really close and start your wiggle. Now, you can't start pulling back until you have that basis, but then once you have that base, pull back, pull up, and go through your design with a very thin thickness of milk. So with the stem there, you can see there's a bit more definition there. It's like a stem on the leaf, and that's the actual coffee, the crema of the coffee coming through. Now, it's not always easier to do, and certainly in this particular design, the leaves could have been a little bigger, but that's okay. We'll do another one just so we can see, everyone is different, and maybe the next one I'll make some errors that are going to be teachable moments. I'm also going to try and get a little more foam when I'm steaming the milk, because it makes that wiggle, the starting wiggle, to get the base so you can pull back a little easier to do. So it's kind of that wiggle and then you start pulling back. And if you do that before you have a nice base, again, like I said, you won't get any definition. Okay, so here we go, folks. I'm back in business. I got my milk and my coffee yet again. And we're just going to give it a good swirl before we pour. Now again, pencil-shaped thickness, and this is the mixing phase. So in circles, you don't want to disturb it too much. About halfway full, maybe 2/3 full, and then start your wiggle. Now, there it goes. We're coming through, and now we can back up and then pull through again with a very thin shape. You're pulling the leaves down in the center, you're pulling the art down in the center to create that leaf effect. Now, comparing the two, the one on the right here is just not as good. There wasn't enough space, the wiggles between the leaves. You don't get that nice sort of rounded leaf shape that you do on the left. And there was a little, I guess a little too much foam, I would say. It is centered nicely. It does take up more of the cup, which I do like, but you can see there's not as much texture on the leaves. There's not as much definition. It's kind of like a very thin leaf. And that's not really what we're going for. Looking back at it, I would have to wiggle a little slower and with a little more force out to the sides to ensure that we get the proper shape of leaf that we want once we come up and pull through on the latte art to sort of bring the center down, fold it down into the drink and create that sort of center stalk of the Rosetta, if you will. When I hold the cup, I hold it with the handle towards my wrist. That means that I can refer to the inside and the outside being sort of on the outside of your body and the inside being on the inside of your arm. So that's kind of what I mean when I refer to the inside and the outside. That's how I'd recommend holding the cup. It also means that when you're, as an ex-barista, when you're serving the drink, you just grab the handle and pass it to the customer. It's super easy to do that. But yeah, so that was kind of two Rosettas, and like you can see, not all of them are perfect, but they both taste just as good. And latte art does not make the drink; it's the drink that makes the drink, and the latte art is just the icing on the cake. Thanks for watching.